I wasn't down to just sit around and wait for the club to hand me some clients. I was like, I need to talk to everyone I can to build my own book of business. And I literally was talking to probably like at a minimum 30 to 40 people every time I was in the club, getting to know them, understanding what they struggle with, what they wanted help with. And I would do that every single day until I built my book of business. So it's like, if you show up, don't waste your time by just waiting for things to come to you. You have to go out and get it and have that mentality that you can do it, but you have to create the opportunities for yourself. And I think that's with a lot of things in life too. It's like, we want things, but we can't just wait around for things to happen to us. We have to put ourselves out there to bring that energy in. You want to come in a way that is not just like, this isn't just about helping me. This is about helping both of us. It's a mutual exchange.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mile 40 podcast. I am Bishoy Tadros, the author of Break Barriers and Audacious, both of which are sold on Amazon. And I invite you to join me as I engage with guests to discuss those bounce back moments that we encounter on our personal journey. Mile 40 is a forum to learn about how athletes, professionals, and leaders of all backgrounds stare down moments in life where the only option is to rise up. The Mile 40 podcast strives to remind listeners that the comeback is always greater than the setback. Welcome back to another episode of the Mile 40 podcast. Thank you all for continuing to tune in. I can't say it enough. I'm incredibly grateful for each and every one of you. I really appreciate the reviews that you guys have thrown on. The show would not be where it is today without you all. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit subscribe if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Check out the show notes. Pick up a copy of Break Barriers or Audacious. You guys know the drill. Today's guest is a guest I am super excited about. I have Tom McGee. He's the founder of Synopsis, a social nutrition app that makes tracking meals simple and connected through AI and community. The app helps people stay consistent by combining photo-based tracking with friends or coaches for accountability. Outside of tech, he lives in New York City, owns the River Loft, a wellness-focused Airbnb and creative space in Connecticut, recently ranked #1 in the state. Tom, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Just really excited for this conversation and excited to unpack all this stuff.
Of course, man. And, we know that the best episodes have come via referrals from former guests of the show, and you are one of those guests. So I already know, we're going to be walking into something special today. Clearly, you're at a really cool stage in your life, given what you've built. But I want to make sure we give the audience a little bit of context before we kind of get to where you are today. Let's take a step back here. Tell me a little bit about where are you from? Where did you grow up? A little bit about your family life as a younger kid.
Definitely. So I'm actually from Weston, Connecticut. So that's a small town about an hour outside New York City. And surprisingly, that's also where my Airbnb property is now. So kind of had some old roots that I wanted to get back to. But yeah, growing up, I would say just kind of very traditional childhood. Was very into sports and things like that. Went to College of Charleston, went into the corporate world after graduating, did commercial real estate and some tech sales. Wasn't really excited about the day to day, but it was kind of one of those things where it's like you're doing what you're supposed to do. I had I would say kind of this like wake up moment where I was 28 years old and I was like, man, I just feel like if I could connect back to the things that really light me up personally, that I'm actually interested in, which was things around fitness, nutrition. And I genuinely love the fact that I could help people directly. And, just there's no better feeling than someone changing their life with their health and just seeing that reaction they get. So I did a life pivot, went into training, didn't tell any of my friends when I did this because honestly, I was very, I would say a little bit ashamed because I was like, man, I'm doing something so different. The money's not really there. But I was like, I owe it to myself to take this leap. And it's been one of the best decisions I've made. I mean, I'm still on this journey of figuring things out, but I've gone through this kind of like roller coaster of, actually building my client base at the gym, going independent, then doing really well, but then COVID hit. So pivoting to doing more stuff on social media, building that up, getting into online coaching and And eventually what I'm actually working on mostly now is this nutrition app, which has been pretty much purely funded by myself and building organically and getting some traction and momentum. So it's just exciting to see when you can align your passion with, to try to navigate this journey. I'm still on it, but that's kind of where I started and where I'm at today. And I'm happy to kind of answer any questions you have, along whatever you want to
No,
cover.
I love the trajectory there, and we're gonna dig into all that. Did you have any siblings?
I did. I do. Excuse me. I have a sister and we're a little bit over a year apart. So we're Irish twins.
Got it. Awesome. And you mentioned how sports played a big role growing up for you. Talk to me a little bit about what sports specifically, and how far your athletic career went in terms of sports.
Definitely. So I would say in high school, I mean, you name a sport, I probably played it. And I mean, my favorite sport was actually football. Not to say I was the best football player, but because it was like a team sport and it was kind of like you're going into battle. And there's just something about that I just love that feeling. Going in, I did well in high school, but I wouldn't say I was like the best. But going into college, I didn't play any sports in college, but I did walk on and do like rugby, and I just stayed really active with exercising because again, like even outside of just playing sports, like I just loved health and wellness, and it's just been something I just naturally have done for forever. And I think it's more than just exercise. I think it's just been a way of just how I handle life. It's like, I think that it's like a foundational habit that if you have that in place, you can handle a lot of other stressors that come at you. So that's been something that's just been really consistent for me for a long time.
Was your relationship with fitness something that was cultivated within your household? Meaning, like, were your parents enthusiasts as it pertained to exercising, eating right, so on and so forth?
Great question. Maybe and no at the same time. So I would say like my father was big into sports. So he definitely was a huge influence in encouraging me to do sports, which was great because I don't know if I would have pushed myself at a young age to do it. But I wouldn't necessarily say that like we were super health conscious. My parents, haven't really started working out like in the gym until a couple years ago, which is they start doing it now because I kind of got them excited about it. And I've seen the benefit that they've had. So I would say from a sports aspect, yes, which was kind of segued into like training, but it wasn't necessarily like they were super health conscious. It's something that I've helped them with as they've gotten older in the last couple of years.
I guess what I'm trying to, derive is when you think about, even the breakdown that you gave us at the very beginning about your own career, about essentially coming back to self and trying to figure out what it is that was going to give you a little bit of sense of fulfillment. And then essentially, going from training to building to now, trying to do something that really speaks to who you are and what your interests are. And I'm trying to derive at where the passion came from, right? Like the thing is about childhood, or anything about being an athlete in childhood, especially in high school, right? It either comes easy to you, right? Or you are committed to battle through, or you find yourself in a situation where you're just kind of going with the flow. And it seems to me that you weren't really going with the flow, based on the quick conversation we've had thus far. It seems to me like there was a real passion there, a real drive. And maybe that drive came from somewhere else. Talk to me a little bit about, what drove you as a human at that point in your life?
Yeah, I think thinking about it even more in depthly, because I can see where you're going. I think just the athletic side of things, like I wouldn't say I was the best, but I would say that it was something that kind of came natural to me. And I think that it was leaning into more of my strengths and things that I felt like were my edge, because it didn't feel like work to me when I was doing it. It actually felt fun. And it's like, if you can do something where other people think it's work, but you think it's fun, it's, that's kind of a cool place to be. So, and also, I was like dyslexic in school, so I wasn't the best student. I did fine, but also I was just trying to navigate like, where can I align my interests, passions, and connect those two together And I thought I had a unique edge in like the fitness space because it was something that came so natural to me. And it also like, it also was something that was fun for me. And I'm like, if I can marry these two and make a career out of it, I don't know financially how this is going to work out, but if I can figure this out and I keep that same work ethic that I've had my whole life, I feel like things are going to work out. I don't really know how it's all going to connect, but that's been my big driver and really how I kind of probably ended up here.
No, I love that. And that kind of takes me to my next question. Um, a lot of people think about doing what you did, but most people then kind of retreat back to safety, right? And clearly, you like you said, you decided to kind of become a trainer, not really tell anyone, and you took the leap, on your own. And I presume that you were kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out for a little bit as you were navigating this. And I see you nodding right there. But it still takes like a certain kind of human to take that first step. And as you and I both know, that first step is the hardest step. So, were there any experiences in your life or any influences in your life that helped instill the courage to move forward with something like this, as crazy it might sound to the outside?
Yeah. Well, I think it really goes back to just you have to have pain to make a change. And I think sometimes we say like, oh, like I just willed this because I wanted it. I'll be honest, I was really unhappy with what I was doing. I thought the day to day was just not fun. I was like, man, I was like, I could do this job, but also I couldn't imagine doing this for 20, 30 years and then regretting the fact that I never really tried what I actually wanted to do. So I would say it was a combination of just not being happy in the day to day what I was doing, and also the regret of not trying. Right. So between those two, that's what really pushed me to do this. And this is also my continual drive, right? I'm still navigating this, and I can get into that later of kind of like what I've gone through this past year because there's a lot I've learned, a lot of mistakes I've made, but it's this beautiful sense that even though it's not like I'm directly doing personal training like I used to, I'm still in that space of health and wellness and helping people. And if I can stay in those lanes, even though it's not like a direct title, I'm going to be an overall probably happier person. So that's my North Star. And I'm just trying to stay on it and figure out this journey. And that's what drove me in the beginning. And that's how I'm continually figuring things out along the way.
How many years ago was it that you started to make this motion outside of the corporate world?
Yeah. So it was my 28th birthday and I'm 35 now.
Okay, so 7 years
So
ago.
yeah, so 7 years ago, I quit the job and I found the cheapest apartment I could find in New York City. I saved up a little bit of money and I made that jump. And I have to say, the first year was pretty unglamorous, not sexy. And I can see why so many people don't want to do it because you really, really have to want it. And if you kind of want it, it's probably not going to be the best move. But again, I know that this is the big picture of what I want to do. And it's not necessarily the job I want to do, but it's in the realm I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, this is the next step to get me to that, to keep moving forward from here.
Where did you start off? Like, where were you training?
I was trained at Equinox. So I was trained as just a regular trainer. And yeah, I mean,
Which one?
I was Bond Street.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, so great club. One of the things about those gyms, even though they don't pay you well, it's the you meet good people and you can learn on the job. So I would say like I made my mistakes there, I cut my teeth there, and I learned what I needed to know. But it's also a place where you have to figure out long term that there's ceilings to certain when you work under a corporate big box. So you have to figure out how are you going to continue to grow. And that's something I had to navigate, which I did.
And this was back in 2018, so a little bit before COVID. And at that stage in the game, social media was pretty. I mean, is pretty prevalent too, right? So I guess were you kind of behind from that perspective at that point?
Yeah, so it was kind of popping off, and I knew that I wanted to do something around social media, but I was so in the weeds of just learning the business and also like navigating this kind of new identity, who I was. So I wasn't super comfortable showing up online yet. So I actually found I landed a couple really big clients, like big celebrity clients, which I don't know if I necessarily want to share the names on here just for privacy reasons, but I was able to get into a really good independent gym. It doesn't exist anymore, but that step was a big step for me to get out of the corporate big box to an independent gym where I was making some more money, making better connections, and then also was able to like free up my creative space. But that actually was a short period until COVID hit, and then that's when I had to go back and kind of like um, figure things out, and that actually led to my online coaching journey, which is something actually that I still do today to kind of pay the bills and stuff like that.
What did that period before COVID teach you about yourself? Like, again, you kind of had to scrap, as you said, right? You kind of downsized into a small apartment. You realized that, the pay was not going to be the same. And you're not the first trainer who's been on this show who started out at an Equinox. And we understand, uh, the complexities there and the fact that you are dealing with a bigger corporation and you're not getting that private pay. So talk to me a little bit about what those scrappy years taught you about yourself.
Um, it taught me if you don't. I would say there was nights that I literally almost slept in the gym. I was there 6 days a week, and I would have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to the gym for my earliest client. And I was literally living at the gym, and I could just see why if you're really not into it, like it's just you really got to know what you want in life. And I knew that this wasn't the end all be all. It was a stepping stone to get me to the next step. And I really wanted to fight for that because I thought that I knew what I was doing before. Like I could always go back to that, but I was like, man, as much as this sucks, I really didn't like what I was doing before. So I really want to give this my all. And like I said, in a year or two, if it doesn't work out, like I can go back and figure out something that's more traditional. But I owe it to myself. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this like all in. I'm going to go all in on this to see what I can do. And that's the mentality that I had. And I think that's what you need to have if you do this, if you want to break out.
And one last question about this era in particular. When you are at that stage and you are looking around at other trainers who are also trying to break into the game, what distinguishes the trainers who succeed versus the ones who end up kind of grinding it out for longer? Is it the personality fits? Is it the science, the people who are more knowledgeable? Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's all different ways to coach people, and I think everyone has to lean into like what they're unique at. So I'll just speak about myself because that's the only the experience I have. But I would say a couple of things I realized is just because I came from a background in like sales and stuff like that, I realized a lot of this is like a numbers game. So it was kind of a funny story when I started at the gym, I had to sign a piece of paper, and they're like, they've kind of phrased it as like we were getting an increase in pay. So it's like, oh, great. But then you read on it, it's like New York City raised their minimum wage by, $3. So it's like $15 an hour. And I'm like, man, I don't know how long I can live in New York City and make minimum wage. So what you have to do is, and also at the same time, I wasn't down to just sit around and wait for the club to hand me some clients. I was like, I need to talk to everyone I can to build my own book of business. And I literally was talking to probably like at a minimum 30 to 40 people every time I was in the club, getting to know them, understanding what they struggle with, what they wanted help with. And through those, and not trying to be like directly like just salesy, but like understanding like what they really want help with. And I would do that every single day until I built my book of business. So it's like, if you show up, don't waste your time by just waiting for things to come to you. You have to go out and get it and have that mentality that you can do it, but you have to create the opportunities for yourself. And I think that's with a lot of things in life too. It's like, we want things, but we can't just wait around for things to happen to us. We have to put ourselves out there to bring that energy in. And obviously just, you want to come in a way that is not just like, this isn't just about helping me. This is about helping both of us. It's a mutual exchange.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I hear you on that. So the shift to online coaching during COVID, obviously it was a shift that everybody in your industry had to take at that point. Talk to me a little bit about how isolating did that process feel? Meaning the fact that every trainer now is going in this direction of online coaching, right? And it's a different business model, and it's kind of like reconvincing your clients now to kind of also move toward this model. And this is going to be a generalization, but I do feel like most of the trainers that I've spoken to, even the ones that have been on the show who've spoken about having to do something similar during COVID, it seems like their businesses seem to go, upwards in trajectory during COVID with that shift to an online model. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started off doing like Zooms, but I really pivoted to doing more like programming because what I found was, first of all, like there's different types of people, right? So like if you're a complete beginner and really need that hand holding, there's no better experience than doing like an in-person session. So I'm not to say like one's better than the other. I just would think it just depends on the individual. But there's a lot of people that just need some guidance of terms of like what is going to be best for them to follow. But then they also want something more than just a workout plan. They want help with their nutrition and also their lifestyle in terms of like making this all manageable for them and digestible for them that they can stay consistent with. And having that just accountability along the way has been incredible because actually a lot of my online coaching clients surprisingly were getting better results than my one-on-one training clients. And the reason is, when you train with someone, you're with them for an hour, we just focus on the gym. But when you focus on online coaching, you're focusing on their workouts, you're focusing on their nutrition, you're focusing on how many steps they got. So it's like all these, and I take all that information and I have to really break it down into a really simple, digestible way for them to understand and act on without them feeling overwhelmed. So the coaching was definitely a change, but I navigated that, and I at the same time was, because I knew when COVID was ending, I was like, I don't want to go straight back into the gym. I want to continue to have this flexibility to not be tied down to a gym. So I was like, man, I got to get my content going. So I really started investing in building on my content, and I took it really serious. Like for a year, I was like, content has to be the engine, because if you don't grow in content, I'm not going to have enough people to sustain this. So I went a year going really hard in the content, and that's where I built my client base. And the beautiful thing about my online coaching is a lot of my clients I have they've had the results they want, but they're still working with me over a long period of time. So it's because I built relationships, they trust me, and they still want a professional in their corner to help them. So it's been great, and it's been really what I needed to do these other things that I've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken about this before in a similar context. I'm a big runner, and I hired a running coach a couple of years ago, toward the tail end of COVID, really for my programming. And again, like I kind of knew what I was doing at that stage, but and enough where I could have probably done the programming online and just figured it out myself. But to your point, I still feel like every month I want to pay this person because the accountability means so much to me. Just having that other person on the other side, keeping track holistically on what I'm doing, means a lot to me as a client. I understand why they stick around. Like it makes perfect sense for them to stick around.
Yeah, and I actually relate this to me making content, because making content is as natural to working out for me. So I didn't grow until I paid someone to help me like film my content, because showing up, it's like if I didn't show up, I'm wasting money. It's like I have to show up. So there's that motivation, and having that accountability on top of it was super important for me. So it's the same thing, right? It's like, you could do it by yourself. I know you could find a plan on ChatGPT, but having someone that's a professional that's going to hold you accountable and, answer your questions directly, that really understands you, it's super important. And I don't think AI is going to replace that, at least for a while.
No, there's like, I'll give you an example. I'm a week away from running New York next week, and I've run New York several times before. But last week, we had a little hiccup. One of our children got sick, had to go to the hospital. We were there for 2 days. She's doing well now. But in the back of my mind, once I found out the prognosis was okay, she was going to be okay, I'm looking at my schedule and I'm thinking, I'm going to miss this run. I'm going to miss this workout. And I know I'm going to be okay. but I still wanted the assurance of texting my coach and being like, hey, like this happened. Like, what do I got to do? Is there anything that I need to do? And he gave me the answer I knew he was going to give me. But you're not going to get that from AI. And if you do get it from AI, I don't know how much faith you're going to be able to give in that answer anyway. And it makes a huge difference. And again, it doesn't matter how seasoned you are or if you're a beginner or a novice, like there's something to be said about that human connection because, AI can't predict for the outlier events that are going to come in your life.
You're 100% right. And that's been my philosophy in a lot of my other business ventures that I'm working on right now is to keep that human side connection, because without that, I think that there's a big missing gap.
Agreed. Okay, so now back to the chain of events here. Online coaching business picks up. Talk about the tail end of COVID when you realized, okay, like you want to continue this going. So are we now talking about 2022-ish?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I started 2022, 2023, you could say. I started just growing on social media, which was great. So then I still did some in-person sessions, but it was more of like here and there versus like I have to be in the gym. And I brought in an assistant coach who's been incredible to help me manage some of the coaching aspect of things. But I just, I actually, like I said, I still have a client base that I work with. They're incredible. I take on a couple clients here and there. It's not like it's my main thing, but it's great. I have good relationships with these people and they've had results. So there's a lot of trust and, I'm helping them just keep navigating their life with their health and things like that. So it's great.
So at what point are we going to be taking the next step now and kind of taking it a step further?
Yeah. So I would say when I started really, really growing my content, let's say on Instagram, when I reached over 100K followers, I realized that the inbound of people that wanted to work with me, I was actually being spread pretty thin. And then I was like, okay, like what is next? And I started playing around with like a lot of different like AI vibe coding things. I created an AI workout builder, which was like a free personalized workout plan that someone could go to aiworkoutbuilder.com and you get a personalized plan that is trained on my knowledge. So like, and I didn't know how to monetize it. It definitely is not the prettiest thing, but I mean, even today, I have 150 people that use it a day, and I built that years ago. So I was like, wow, like this is not even running with me, but it's still using some of my knowledge. Like I really want to like play around with this AI stuff to see like how this can be mutually beneficial to myself and the people that I work with. So and also like I mentioned, like the coaching, while it's great, it did have like limitations. The other thing I noticed was with my coaching clients, I've used every nutrition app out there, and they all work. But the thing is, a lot of my clients will only stay consistent for like 2 or 3 days and then stop.
I
And then I was
just downloaded one 3 weeks ago and only stay consistent for 3 days.
Yeah, it's very common. And I would say that, it's like they all work, but if you're not going to stay consistent, none of it matters, right? So, as someone that's a professional in the field, I realized that you could be doing everything right, but if your nutrition's not in the right range, you're really going to struggle. It's going to be an uphill battle. So when I was thinking about all this AI stuff, I was like, man, I really feel like there's something I can work with to make it simpler for the user and also make it connected to help people with that engagement and retention. And that's what sparked my idea of Synopsis, which I launched a little over a year and a half ago. And that's kind of what I've been working on as my main focus.
Hey all, it's me, Bishoy. As a marathon runner and endurance athlete, I've come to understand the importance of properly fueling your body for preparation and recovery. Every day, you get a shot at success. How you start your day typically paints a picture of what the rest of the day will look like. Start your day with a super convenient, healthy, and delicious nutritional win. Meal 1 by Creatures of Habit. Overnight oatmeal packed with 30 grams of plant-based protein, chia, flax, and pumpkin seeds. Vitamin D3, omega-3s, a probiotic, and digestive enzymes, made in under 1 minute. Stop wasting time or worrying about what to eat as your first meal of the day. Start with Meal 1. Visit creaturesofhabit.com, creatures spelled with a K, and use code MILE40 for 15% off a one-time purchase or the first subscription order payment. So I downloaded an app about 3 weeks ago. It was backed by someone who I know, someone who I trust. And the actual app it's a good quality app and it's a fairly good user experience. Where I kind of checked out after 3, 4 days is the fact that I'm a creature of habit. So like I'm eating a lot of the same stuff every day. I tend to lean toward a whole food diet. I'm very conscious of trying to avoid processed foods and making sure that I get the right protein intake. And maybe I'm not the right person for the app, but at the same time, I don't know what my expectation was from using the app because it was basically giving me the same information every day. Because again, I'm a creature of habit, trying to repeat as much as possible. Yes, there are off days where I am going to sneak in something, and there are days where I'm on the go and maybe not, eating enough. But I kind of want to, dig a little bit with regards to Synopsis. When you think about building an app like this, um, do you have to tailor it toward a certain audience? Like how do you make it so that it works for a broader audience?
Yeah, well, the people this works really well for is, I would say, busy business professionals that have a lot going on. They wouldn't be tracking probably otherwise. So it needs to be really simple and user friendly for them. And also, I could say like parents are probably in that bucket at the same time. And then also in addition to that, one of the biggest things I mentioned is we talk about like what makes us show up. And you talked about the reason like you hired a coach, right? And even though like you could find these answers elsewhere, there's a reason that keeps you engaged. So we're really trying to marry the simplicity of using AI to do a lot of the manual stuff that none of us really want to do, but are still important. But then having that social connectivity where you can have that person that is able to quickly understand what's going on with your nutrition, give you high level feedback to keep you engaged. Because again, maybe you don't need to track your food, but maybe you have a specific goal. And that's what, I would be wanted to know about if I was working with you. And by seeing your food for at least, a few days, I'm gathering information as a professional to understand, hey, maybe you don't see this, but I'm seeing this. And I think that if we do these couple tweaks, you could take things to the next level. And like I said, what I beta tested this with all my online coaching clients. I had 50 clients, and this is the first time I've really had them be consistent. And because I had these small touch points with them, and like either I would like or comment, and they were consistently logging. And there was another thing that happened too. A lot of my clients were they used to come to the call and be like, Tom, I don't know what's going on with nutrition. Tell me what I need to do. They started answering their own questions, because a lot of my clients that are busy business professionals, including myself, sometimes I don't even remember what I ate for breakfast the day before. So I'm thinking I'm eating healthy, but really it's not. Like, you see this kind of like mirror of what you've eaten, and it's actually slightly different. So a lot of the answers with nutrition maybe aren't so complicated, but they're just bringing awareness to what we're doing. And if you can make that 10 or 15% improvement by just building the awareness and being consistent, that can be the difference for that busy parent or business professional lose that 5 or 10 pounds. And then they're feeling amazing. Then they have momentum. Then all these wins start stacking up on top of each other. And that's the beauty of this. And as a coach, it's very simple for you. You just have these small touch points. You can kind of see like what they're averaging. You can see the images of what they're eating, and you can quickly identify if there's any issues to help the client. And that's been the philosophy of really what I'm trying to focus on.
As a coach, do you feel like, given the development of tools like this and the rise of AI, that perhaps unexpectedly people are listening up more? Because uh, everyone's wired differently, but there's definitely a subset of people who find themselves in the gym, who are novices in the gym, who perhaps didn't live the healthiest lives, who might be trying to turn things around, but for the longest time in their lives were resistant. And it's easy for them to make excuses when they hear it directly from a human who's like, hey, like, this is going to be your meal plan. This is what you need to focus on. And even if they tell you to your face that they're going to listen, they can go home and do something differently. It feels like, through the development of apps like this and platforms like this, I think it's working. Like, what I'm trying to get at is, I think this works because, like, a lot of people don't like being told what to do. And when you're not being told what to do by a human, you're being told what to do by an app, or a platform that's designed to cater to you. Um, you don't get the satisfaction of like not listening to them the same way that you do not listening to a human, if this is making sense.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to answer your own questions, right? And sometimes
Exactly.
it's like seeing what's in front of you is just the simplest way to do that. And it's a lot of it's not rocket science. It's just building self-awareness. And through that, like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect, but just making smaller adjustments can be the difference between, getting the results you want or not.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the psychology of it. Because it, maybe I'm more ingrained in it now than I ever was. And for background, and I think I mentioned this before on the show, my wife, when she was postpartum for our second child, she wanted to do Whole30 to just get back in shape and kind of get back into things. And I remember she asked me if I wanted to do it with her, and I'd never done it before. And I remember for a hot second I wrote it off. I was like, no, like I don't really want to do it. But then I was like, you know what? I got to be a good husband. So I decided to do it to support her. And then I did it, and then it like fundamentally changed my relationship with food and how I approach nutrition in general. And then I basically kind of just went completely the other direction. And like, while I'm not living Whole30, I am essentially living a whole food lifestyle, to the best of my ability. And Now that I'm kind of in this realm of how I handle my nutrition, I've learned so much about the psychology of it. And I've learned so much about the reasons why perhaps I previously had been rejecting of, approaching, my meals this way. And I'm interested, all this to say, as you're building out a platform like this, and obviously, there's the science of it in terms of like what is good for us as humans and what will help us meet our individual goals, whether it's to lose weight, build muscle, get faster, get stronger, so on and so forth. But there's also a thought where you have to think about how you're building this out to psychologically resonate with your end clients. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So one of the most interesting things is a lot of my clients, first of all, you see on social media, and this is not just, I'm not the only one, but it's like everything looks perfect and manicured. So we think that this is healthy food, right? This is healthy and this is what you have to eat to get certain results. Has to be perfect, has to look perfect. But in reality, when I share my meals, I'm showing the authentic side of what I actually eat. So you may see like during the week, it's pretty regimented, it's pretty simple, but you'll see on the weekends, I go out sometimes and not every meal is perfect. I have pizza and like live a normal life, right? So one of the things that my clients were like, Tom, you don't eat as clean as I thought you did. But at the same time, what you're seeing is the balance, right? Because no one eats clean 100% of the time, nor do you need to eat clean 100% of the time to get results, right? So it's like, what do you average throughout the week or month? That's going to determine the progress that you make, right? So when we zoom out and we don't get so caught up in the day-to-day, then, and you can see someone that's already kind of managing that balanced lifestyle, you can start to pick up these little things. And I've trained myself intuitively, but a lot of my clients, they go so extreme in one direction that it's not sustainable, and then they lose weight and then they bounce back. So it's like we're trying to think, yeah, we want these short wins. And I know that like if you can log your food for a week, I'm telling you, like, you're going to just realize like so much stuff about yourself. And then in addition to that, you start seeing someone that actually knows how to continue to do this. You'll start picking up on little cues, and it's not like I have to tell you what to do. You're just going to intuitively start picking up on it. And that's what I think is beautiful, is where we can make it more of a lifestyle and not just like a hard, extreme diet where it's not sustainable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now it's been about 2 years since Synopsis was incepted.
Yeah, I don't know exact time frame, but I'd say a year and a half. I would say
Okay.
maybe around there somewhere.
Got it. And you mentioned the last year there's been a lot going on.
Yeah. So this app for the last, again, over a year has been fully bootstrapped by me. I've self-funded this, and it's been quite a journey. I've done the marketing myself to get things going. We probably generated over 20 million organic views from just myself, so no paid ads or anything. I was able to get some of my good friends that are also coaches, and some are have some following that were able to work with me, give them, some discounts, help me with the marketing. And I had my user base that were also like the ones testing this for me and giving me feedback and stuff like that. So, we had a lot of growth, especially in the beginning. We were really one of the first nutrition photo taking apps out there. Something that unfortunately happened is I had a co-founder disagreement. So we actually ended up parting ways. I bought him out. So through that couple months, I had to take over this app as a non-technical founder, that was a crazy journey in myself. I mean, learning how to like debug the app and stuff like that and you have users that are complaining, and that was very stressful. But I feel like that also pushed me from, I would say, I wouldn't call myself technical, but I would say I'm tech literate, where I understand the basics of what I need to know. So that helped me now pick the team I have now, the technical team. I have like 3 developers full time, and understanding like the real, like what's working, what's not working, what we need to focus on. So it's been I would say painful, but also very educational process for me to be a better founder, and to keep taking things from here. And yeah, it's just been a roller coaster of just navigating this journey. And actually, one of the most amazing things is, because I mentioned I was self-funding this, is a couple months ago, we actually had one of our users that reached out to give us an angel investment. So this was really needed because, the way the app was built in the beginning was very much like scrappy, like, kind of like piecing things together using third parties. And that's totally makes sense when you're starting. But now we have thousands of paying active users. So now we have a really solid core base of people, and to keep developing on top of what you have, if you don't have a good foundation, is very difficult. There's bugs and all these other things. So I was able to use this investment, which again, it's not a crazy amount, but it's enough to do things right. We were able to rebuild the app, have an incredible foundation. We have incredible team now that I've hired, still really scrappy. But now it's like the next level of like where we're trying to take things. And it's really exciting to me, but it's pretty stressful. I have to admit, because, I'm still learning, and I've definitely made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I still have my core goal of like what I'm trying to accomplish. And I see it really clear. And I'm kind of in this messy progress right now. But it's happening real time.
No, thank you for opening up about that. And uh, not too long ago, uh, I really dove into understanding where individuals such as you and even myself. I mean, there was this idea that I really wanted to follow up on, and I was looking and searching, and maybe I'm giving away my $1 billion idea for a platform to help find that technical co-founder. And I don't want to dig too deep into your story, but I do want to ask, like, was it a personal relationship, or was it someone that you found just kind of building the business, the co-founder that you no longer work with?
So I found them through a matchmaking. It's actually called
Yeah.
YC. I don't know if you Y Combinator.
Yeah.
Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
So they have like a matchmaking service, and it's kind of like, I would say it's like Bumble for entrepreneurs. You can put your
Yeah.
resume out there.
That was my $1 billion idea, but clearly they don't. Clearly they didn't do a good job. But go ahead.
Yeah. So like they match you up with, like, you can put your idea out there and they can match you with technical talent, or vice versa if you're looking for marketing. But something when it comes to co-founder relationships is the statistics of them working out in reality are actually like, they're even worse than like normal divorce rates. It happens all the time. They just don't work out because it's high stress. People have different ideas. So it happens. So, yeah, it's one of those things where when it works, it's beautiful, but it's also really hard to find. And sometimes if you have like a relationship with them in the past, it can help your odds of like having a successful co-founder relationship with a tech
Just
founder
the
or
way
vice
you worded
versa.
it, I wanted to ask, like, is there a prenup involved, or like, how did you have to navigate the breakup?
Yeah, no, it's good. Well, these are all the mistakes I've made, right? So we
Yeah.
didn't really plan that out, right? So it's
Yeah.
like you think everything's going to be like roses, but in reality, like I said, like a lot of times things don't work out. So we didn't have those things in place, and we had to spend a couple, like 3 months. This is when the app's growing, right? So like
Sure.
we're growing
So the
really
app's
quickly.
going up, and you
The
guys are
app's
like
going
kind
up,
of
everything's going up, and then we have to spend 2 or 3 months to negotiate, lawyers, all this stuff, and there's that a lot of companies don't make it through that. So yeah, it is good to have that stuff thought ahead previously. That's a great point.
Got it. No, I mean, again, that was something that I didn't know about. I mean, um, I did, see the YC element of it, and I did see other kind of like not so well built out options for that. So I like literally turned to my wife. I'm like, This is it. This is going to be the idea, but I need a technical co-founder to do it, and I don't know where to find a technical co-founder to do it." Um, but no, that's really good insight. And I guess one of the things that we can kind of ask you that would help the audience is when you think about having to navigate something like that, especially when you're new to this world of entrepreneurship, especially in this space, a very fast moving space. You're never really prepared to handle that. And so you kind of have to like do some digging within to make the decisions that you need to make to not only protect your future, but also to kind of uh, to to protect your your present as well, meaning that you still have to you still have to wake up every day and feel like you're chasing something down and the world is not imploding on you, despite the fact that what is happening right in front of you is seems like the biggest issue in the world because it is your world essentially. So talk to me a little bit about how you navigated it, on an individual level. Like, how did you navigate your mental health? How did you um, what would you tell yourself, in terms of how you navigated getting through this?
Yeah, it's hard to give you all these like perfect lessons because I'm still kind of going through it right now. But I would say you cannot be an expert in everything, right? Or like you cannot be great at everything. Like I typically can focus on like one or two things. So whether it's coaching, content, maybe one other thing, then be good. But if I start taking on too much, I get too spread thin. So just if I would say, you got to be realistic with yourself of like what you can take on. And, when you're becoming a founder of something, it's just such a steep learning curve. And you have to just, I would say, talk to people if you can that's already done it to try to learn the lessons. I had some people tell me about certain things that I kind of like didn't really listen to at the same time. Then it came back to bite me. So it's like you figure out, you try to find people that are a little bit farther ahead of you to learn from them. And yeah, I would just say just kind of being giving yourself the grace that, just think about you can't be an expert in everything. You have to start delegating if you can. Um, and and the other thing too is like now one thing I've learned is like if you can lean into relationships that you currently have, like if you know someone that has experience or you refer to someone that's on a technical side, I think those are going to have way better odds of like things working out. So I have a referral now from a friend who had a successful app that is now working on the tech side, and they've been really good so far. So just like having those referral connections, and sometimes you have to put yourself in new rooms. So you have to meet new people. There's no secret sauce to this though. It's kind of like you just have to learn as you go.
No, of course, of course. And what I love about that is it's a message that we hear over and over again. Like, again, countless founders have been on this show. And I think the majority of them will tell you that it's nowhere near as glamorous as it seems on the outside. You probably have more bad days than you have good days, but when it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's usually really bad. And there's generally just a slight uptick of good over the bad where it's worth it to keep going, especially if you're doing it in pursuit of something that you're incredibly passionate about and that gives you a sense of fulfillment. And clearly, that is the scenario here with regards to what you're building. And I think there's a lot to reflect on there with regards to that. And I feel like I don't even need to ask you this question, but I'm going to say it out loud. And if you disagree, let me know. It feels like, despite the fact that you had to navigate hurdles like this, it's probably for the best that you experience these hurdles at this point in this journey. So that way now, you're equipped for what lies ahead.
Absolutely. Right. So like, I think it kind of goes back to like everything. I wouldn't say everything happens for a reason, because I think there's a lot of things you could, I would look at like, I'll do this different, but a lot of those lessons I like, having to navigate the app on my own for a few months, that was very hard lesson, but also it really taught me so much. And sometimes I needed that that hard learning curve. And I'm still like diving into this stuff, still learning. Um, but I agree with what you're saying there.
I don't want to forget to bring this up, but talk to me a little bit about the River Loft.
Yeah. So the river lot was something that I about a year and again, kind of a year and a half ago, made an investment of a property. It's actually in my hometown. It was an old neighbor that actually sold this property. She was an architect. She built this home for herself and actually was planning to live there, but her family expanded and it was too small for her. So she reached out to my mom, who's a realtor, to sell it. And it's this beautiful 700 square foot tiny home. It's about 3 acres on private forested land, private river. We've really tried to create this kind of like wellness experience because it ties into kind of what I like to do. So it has sauna, outdoor shower. And it's really special to me. Like it wasn't even like about me having this Airbnb. It was something that I just personally really wanted, and the opportunity kind of came to me. So I took advantage of it. Through that process, the Airbnb, through a little bit of marketing of my own, has become the number one Airbnb in Connecticut. We've had this summer, we actually had a really big YouTuber stay there. I don't know if you're familiar with like Ryan Trahan. I'm personally not, but he actually did his whole America tour with staying at the top Airbnbs in every state. He stayed at the Airbnb. So it's really been kind of like put on the map, and it's just so cool to see that, it's also giving me the opportunity to do other things too by having the Airbnb as kind of like a thing I could use for myself, but also a little bit as an investment too. So yeah, it's not just about really making money for me with that. It's really just kind of like a passion project I just love it. It's a really special experience. If you're ever around, you should come out there and stay sometime.
Absolutely. Hey man, you don't need to tell me twice. I'm definitely down to come check something like that out. That sounds awesome. Um, you know, in speaking to you and in rounding this out, one of the things that I find a lot of comfort in is the fact that you're now in this ecosystem that you probably always wanted to be in. You're living this life despite having to navigate, the challenges of the business and having to deal with these experiences that perhaps you wish you could have avoided. You're in the ecosystem that you always wanted to be in. And you're 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 branching your network out, and you're building your brand based on the fundamentals of healthy living, wellness, nutrition, fitness, working out, so on and so forth. And in speaking to you, I see hope. Like I see hope for people out there who perhaps are listening to this episode, who are just hating the grind day in, day out, the 9 to 5, who have similar passions to you, who think twice about, taking the leap, who hesitate to exit their comfort zone, who perhaps think there's no way they could pull it off. But one of the things that, and I'll probably turn this into a question form, but one of the things that I get from you is that it wasn't an overnight process.
No.
You know, right? And it took baby steps, and different pieces came to play at different times. And that's one of the cool things about what you've done is when you think about these various verticals and how they came into your life, whether it's building Synopsis, whether it's finding yourself in the situation where the river loft is now a part of your life, and going from working at an Equinox to then working at a more private gym. It seems like you had the mindset that said, I'm going to keep working, I'm going to keep showing up, and I'm going to put the pieces together. So talk to me a little bit about now that how things have played out, and now that you're also continuing to build going forward. What fundamentally has been your biggest lesson over the last 5 years?
You really hit the nail on the head. Sometimes I remember when I was in the gym at Equinox, I remember going like, man, like I'm training, but I want a whole bunch of followers. But in reality, I wasn't ready for it at that time. If I had all those followers at the beginning of my training journey, I wouldn't have been able to capitalize on that opportunity. So my following came at a time where actually it actually made sense to have a following with the online coaching growing and stuff like that. So it's like all these things you may want right away, but there's actually probably a reason why you don't have them right away. And I think that's the same thing with the app. I've made mistakes, but then also I through those mistakes I've learned a lot, and now I'm even better for it, and I'm understand more. So I think sometimes these things that we want right away, it's like we have to understand there's probably a reason why you don't have them right now, and you have to figure out like what you need to do to just get it to that next step. And of course, it's great to have that big long-term vision, but like, what's the next step? Focus on mastering that, and then you'll look back in a year from now and you'll see how many steps you've climbed. It's incredible. And like I mentioned, I don't feel like I'm talking about myself, but I don't feel like my journey is complete at all. I actually feel like what I'm really trying to focus on is if I can break through this next step that I'm in right now. It's a very critical time. There's a lot of competitor apps out there, but a lot of them are either just run by, I would say, tech bros that really are just trying to follow a trend around fitness and nutrition. I think that they don't really care about the coach. I don't really think they care about the clients getting results. I think they care about money. And I also think there's a lot of the competitors have huge VC money behind them. So they're basically like an Equinox, but in an app. So what I'm trying to do is I've been bootstrapping this thing for a long time. I'm the owner of this app. I come from a background of fitness, nutrition, coaching. I understand the client psychology. I want to lift all of these people up. I don't want to leave the trainers behind. I worry that if maybe it's not even like my app's the one that works, but if I feel like if I'm pushed out, they're going to try to automate a lot of things. And I don't think it's the right way, because my goal with Synopsis is to keep elevating these coaches, keep elevating these dietitians so they can scale with their clients and help more people, and it helps the user. So I really, as I navigate this next step, I hope I can pave a way for other people and other coaches to grow with us. And I think it's really critical that I stay in the game, and I'm really, any support that you or your followers can give me, I really love it. Either it's feedback, whether they think they would benefit from signing up for the app. I'm really, I can't do this by myself. I need some help. So, and I'll obviously share all my lessons as I go through this too.
Tom, cheers to that, man. We're definitely going to be putting the link in the show notes. Everybody check out Synopsis. Everybody check out Tom. That's one of my main purposes of this show, is to help not only build and cultivate the community, but help us invest in each other. I mean, the truth of the matter is, similar to you, I've bootstrapped everything from the beginning, whether it was the books, the show, and everything that's related to this platform has been from scratch. And I do that because I really want the stakeholders, whether they're the guests or the audience, to invest in each other. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for the audience to lean in into someone who's incredibly authentic and who did it on his own in ways that we all think about doing it at times. And I'm fully with you on that. And I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you for yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. And I just want to say again, like, it's not really so much about, I would say, me as an individual. It's, I want to lift the whole space up for these coaches and dietitians, because I know what it's like to be pushed down. And I think if there's a way that I can break out, I think it's going to open up floodgates for a lot of other opportunities for these coaches, where they're taken more seriously and have a seat at the table, and not just, thought of as like a marketing vehicle for these apps and things like that.
Of course, of course, and I love that. I love that. I love that because I do think it's something that's incredibly important. And so, thanks, dude. Thanks so much for coming on, for sharing with us, for being vulnerable, and just for keeping it real. It means a lot to me, man.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate this.
You got it. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode of the Mile 40 podcast, go ahead, subscribe, leave a review, and share the word. Thank you for being a part of the Mile 40 family. And let's unite in showing the world that comebacks are always greater than setbacks.